Okay.
Now we're being recorded. I guess I don't know who gets to say continue on that. Is everybody have to press that continue? Okay, well, thank you. We're very lucky to have Gulzada and Zhanar here to talk about Kazakhstan. As we know, right now, it's a very dramatic period in Central Asia. There's news every day of new things going on, and one of the things that's very important is activism in general, and the women's marches as part of Women's Day are a very important part of the political and social activism, rapidly transforming the way Central Asians think about their societies. And they're prominent. These events are prominent context for people to think through what needs to be done, what needs to change, and how they can participate in these processes. And it's really great to have people who are so dedicated to this to come speak to us today. So our first speaker is Gulzada Serzhan, who has a BA in Applied Mathematics from Kazakh State University, and an MA in Economic Theory from the New Economic School in Moscow, and she was a visiting scholar at the Haas School of Business at the University of California. She's been active in several women's rights initiatives in Almaty, including as co-founder of Feminita, Feminist Initiative. And she's been a key figure in organizing May 8th demonstrations in Almaty since 2017. So thank you very much for being here, and I'll let you take over the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathan. Yes, my name is Gulzada. I'm a co-founder of Kazakhstan Feminist Initiative, Feminita, and we are based in Almaty. Here will be Zhanar, another co-founder. So as for Women's March in Almaty that we organized really successful this year, we have to start looking back from the movement, feminist movement in Central Asia with the leaders from Kyrgyzstan. So feminist activists and queer activists, they went to activities or some events, trainings or marches that were organized by Kyrgyzstan activists, feminist activists and queer activists. And then the first time in Almaty in 2017, the initiative which started this march in Almaty, it was KASFEM, and we joined. Feminita was already always spread. The members of Feminita, they lived in different cities. I was only one who lived at that time in Almaty, so I could support that. The first march in 2017 in Almaty. And at that time, the first row of the activists, feminist activists, they were under control of police, and then one of activists, she really suffered from persecuting her for these organizations. So she was picked up by from all these organizers. There were only about 20 feminists who attended this really short, like 10 or 15 minutes rally. And then the next year, we tried to have authorized by local authority rally, and started to write to local authority Akimat. So Feminita, we filed about 8 requests, and KASFEM activists, they filed about 30 something, like about 40. and all of them were unsuccessful. And another activist, feminist activist in Astana, in Almaty, we tried. I think it was about maybe over 50, under 70 requests to have this rally in 2018. And then it was unsuccessful, but they allowed it in September instead of March. Usually, all all International Women's Day is celebrated on March 8th, but they allowed us in September, and for Feminita they allowed in December 8th. And then the next year, when we gathered with feminist initiatives become stronger every year, year by year, when we struggled, when we wanted to have this rally on our streets, in our Kazakhstan streets, like Bishkek feminists they have in their street. So uh, when we gathered, there were a few initiatives, feminist initiatives, who decided to organize it. If authorities will sanction, then we will be okay. But if they won't, then we will go anywhere anyway. So it happened, and we wrote only one request, and it was rejected. Then about 200 people gathered on March 8th, and we really have really pretty successful rally on 2020. Then two feminists they were picked for prosecuting. Fariza and Arina, they suffered from court. There were really big fine, about I think 300 USD, around 300 USD. And then we are still having court cases, strategic court cases. It is not completed yet. And then the next year, this year, 5 feminist organizations come together again, and we hold the same strategy. We will request once. If they won't allow us, then we will go like we did before. And we understood there might be persecutions from police again. This time, all these people who were organizers and whose face was shown in the past, they hold back, and new faces came. And so 2 feminist women, they volunteered to write this request, and then they were backed by 5 feminist organizations like Feminita, Kazfem, FemPoint, FemSreda. FemSreda means Fem Wednesday or Fem Environment, and Svet. Svet is an organization which deals with domestic violence. And then the only one difference, it was the legislation on having peaceful meetings changed the last year in 2020, when we were having pandemic. We were always sitting at home. A few changes related to civil society, they were imposed, and we really wanted to protest against this legislation, because it is really hard. But authorities, they see the values. So this year when we wrote, so it went under this new legislation, and they because they have their own rules, their organizers, they have a lot of requests from them to face, because in the past they might face only three types of kinds of restrictions. Now it's 12 for organizers. So they're responsible for everything, if for example, foreign person attends the rally, then the organizer might face a charge. So they might come up, and also the charges might be um, pressed during 1 year. So two organizers who signed up this request, they're still on hold, like until the March 8th of 2020, they might get something from Akimat if they think that they need to be punished. So but everything okay by now. It's nobody get any charges. We hope they won't. And also one restriction of this new legislation is 1,000 persons might attend a rally. So if it goes above 1,000, then organizers again might get charged. So I think in one of the biggest challenge the next year when we have the rally in Almaty, probably it will be more than 1,000. So we don't know what is what is waiting for us. And also, as Feminita, we want to spread it in Kazakhstan. So we are trying to help feminist initiatives, feminist organization in Astana to have their rally in Astana streets. And in Astana, they requested this year, but Akimat didn't support it. So I think we have to share our experience with Astana feminists, and they probably the next year it will be successful. So that's about the rally that we have. We think it was really successful, and because of this rally, we Feminita faced a lot of attacks from anti-gender movements, and I think Zhanar might might open up this and show all these challenges we are facing as a Feminita, as Kazakhstan Feminist Initiative, which works on marginalized women's rights. So our focus is lesbian, bisexual, and queer women's rights. And when we were one of the organizers, the anti-gender group, they tried to make it as if this rally was only about LGBT pride or something related to LGBT rights. But the topic of this rally, it was activism and rights of different women. So diversity of women. So we wanted to talk about the problems relate or possibilities related to different kinds of women who live in Almaty and in Kazakhstan. There were some people who came to Almaty to be part of this rally. So by now, I think I will stop here, and we will talk about more if there will be some questions.
Great. Okay, let me introduce Zhanar and I think just if everybody can just hold their questions till the end would be the best way to do this. So Zhanar Sekerbayeva has her BA, summa cum laude from Gumilev Eurasian National University, and another BA from Lomonosov Moscow State University. She did her MA in sociology at European Humanities University and her PhD at Tsukuba University in Japan, working on issues around the recognition and normalization of trans people in Kazakhstan, normalization being the problematized term. She's active in many feminist organizations in Kazakhstan and was also a co-founder of the Feminita Feminist Initiative. So thank you. And please.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, so I'm also one of the co-founder of Kazakhstan Feminist Initiative. And while I was studying, Gulzada was participating in marches and meetings since 2017, together with KASFEM. KASFEM, actually, our friends and sisters and allies, although we have some inner feminist, how to say, just positions, we have some very opposite opinion on some topics. But when we meet for providing and organizing such rallies and, for example, meetings, of course, we agree on many points. We will do something very common for us, that we really need to gather and show everybody that we have solidarity. So that is why nobody still doesn't know what is exactly what make us opposite. I mean, outside of activist circle, maybe today I can say you some words, but we usually do not say it because mass media could use it, and then they would how to say, make a fire from saying that feminists cannot agree on any point, and this is horrible, this is catastrophe, how to say, apocalypse. So you have to deal with that, and we don't want that kind of attack because we already have very different attacks on poster, which, for example, 2 years old, and for which I was punished as a petty hooligan. I was putting a poster with menstruating women, and it was a session dedicated to destigmatization of menstruation in Kazakhstan, because in Kazakhstan it is still a stigma to speak about menstruation as menstruation. People use other words like Red October, communism. I think Vladimir Ilyich Lenin wouldn't be so happy if he could understood what heritage he will leave for us. So other words, for example, even like guests from Kızılar'da. Kızılar'da is the city. Actually, we are very soon going to the city to have training, to provide training for civil activists. So this 2 years old poster was used to blame us that we are raising such radical issues. And also we were blamed for another poster where Pushkin and Kurmangazy were kissing. Pushkin is a famous Russian poet, as you know, and Kurmangazy is a Kazakh Akın. So he was playing on Dombra.
Composer.
Sorry, he was playing on Dombra, and his heritage also is very known among Kazakh-speaking and, of course, some Russian-speaking Kazakhstani citizens. And they choose some posters to say that, or one of the organizers of this 8th of March is such a radical, or they use our sexual orientation to say that this feminist march actually was not feminist, because this is, look, this is lesbian who are leading people. And we are saying, yes, we are lesbians, of course, but not all women who came were lesbians. And it's very impossible even to check, even if we would like to do that experiment, how it's supposed to be checked. Are you lesbian or not? If you come to such march, rally. And Gulzada mentioned that actually the history of the such rally and the success happened not in 1 year, but it started from 2017. It was so many years we spent, and our colleagues from KASFEM and other activists spent. They wrote the statements. We did a lot of mistakes, requesting allowance, because if you do not write some number or comma, or you do not do the stop in an exact point, they will say you have to re-edit your request, and of course you have to spend more time. and you don't have too much time. You start to prepare in January, so you don't have too much for any mistake, too much time. So that is why it was for us very essential this time that we have a lawyer, Tatiana Chernobyl. She's an expert in international law. She works in Almaty, and she helped us not to do any technical mistake. So we had to write correct and exact request for Akimat, and it actually was very working, and the strategy was very successful. So, of course, it's very shameful when we have to request allowance. I have to notice we are not agreeing with that practice. But because we don't have any other, how to say, choice, we decided, okay, if they do not allow us to rally, we will do it anyway. So we thought, okay, let's try legal way, and then if it is not working, we will do another way, illegal way. So for us, it was like, okay, we will do it anyway. So we do not saying that we are very pro-governmental girls or pro-governmental women. We are not, but we had to also use this variant to see how the law on peaceful assembly is working in Kazakhstan and what are challenges after peaceful rally or peaceful meeting can happen. And instead of thinking of, okay, if next year 2,000 women come, or instead of thinking, okay, no fights happen, but what if it will happen, what we will do? Instead of that, mass media and bigger society, they started to discuss our clothes, they started to discuss our haircuts, they started to discuss our sexual orientation, of course. And they were so distracted, and they did not understand that actually this law on peaceful assembly was tested by feminists. And it's very historical that we did a test. We showed to every people in Kazakhstan that peaceful assembly is possible. And you have to gather, you have to put a request in, how to say, technical correctly manner, and you can succeed. I think this was the point that was missed by other civil activists who actually was not showing too big support for us, because we expected that a lot of civil activists, for example, ecological or political reforms or women's organizations activists will come and join, but we didn't see much faces of that very recognized people. And we were very sorry that they still waiting for something, or maybe, as I spoke to Svetlana Shakirova, the one famous and well-known focal, I would say, researcher of women activism in Kazakhstan, she said, Zhanar, public demonstrations for me is not an effective way to do activism. She chose academic activism. So she chose this way, and of course we respect that. But the generation of her age, how to say, status, they usually choose not to go to public demonstrations. And this culture of public demonstrations a little bit now have not gender, but age gap. So it was like interrupted by our perestroika, by when the state became independent, and everybody was a little bit confused. And then police started to arrest people, and people started to be afraid of, because they have jobs, they have loans, they have state jobs, for example, teacher, or if you are a policeman and you are going to such rally, you can be punished administratively by local government. And we feel that mostly the face of March, on 8th of March, and meeting 2021 was young women face. It was not the face of, unfortunately, women who, for example, started in 90s and who could, of course, say a lot of very interesting, very analytical ideas and maybe some observations, and they could help us how maybe, you know, we can also collaborate with academic narratives and maybe test something, some practices, some theories, but we now have such a gap. And public demonstrations, a little bit scaring them. They say, we do our activism in our NGO as Margarita Uskimbaeva. We do our activities as a union for Союз кризисных центров, union of crisis centers, like shelters for women. And they are leading them. So, of course, we cannot blame or cannot say somebody is, missing the opportunity. We just feel a little bit sadness and sorrow that we do not have such women with us. Maybe with years it would change and people will see, oh, it is peaceful. Police did not come at home. Police actually protected us for the first time. And it was really interesting how police, instead of using kettling, which they actually used, for example, on Gulzada, and hold people for 7 till 10 hours without no food, no drinking water, no going to toilet, and people actually had to piss there. And these women who pissed there, they were pissing in front of policemen. And this kind of torture, we would like to recognize it as torture. And of course, human rights defenders say it is a torture. We would like to say that, of course, this practice of, being surrounded by police just to protect you was also a very unique feeling. I never felt that before because I had a history of 2 detains, how to say, when police come and, a little bit triggers me, but usually when I see their figures and they're a little bit recognizable when you go in the crowd, not only by their uniform, but sometimes I feel that these people forget what is sport or what is jogging. I'm sorry that I have to say that. It's just because I think they cannot catch any thief, they cannot catch any criminal, any murderer, because the physical form cannot allow this. I'm doing sports, and for me it's very, very critical to understand that you have to be in a very good shape, to for example, to run. What I also would like to maybe observe that, yes, 5 initiatives together, we gathered and we did this rally and meeting, and local government, Akimat, shamefully tried to negotiate with us in informal way. They started negotiations about what if we decline rally, and instead of rally, we go just on meeting. And on the meeting area, it was a square of Shokan Balikhanov, our Kazakh ethnographer. What if we just go 3 circles, they said, and maybe girls, you will be pleased by that. It was really humiliating tone and manner in what they choose to speak. And we said, no, we disagree even with your tone, not just discussing your idea. We were preparing for that. We did a lot of announcement on social media. A lot of people saw and bought tickets, even people with, one woman with physical, how to say, needs. She came and participated. So she bought ticket already. She cannot just now, what we will say to her. And it was very shameful way they tried to, using our, using us, our voices, they wanted to say, okay, feminists decided not to do rally. So they didn't want to do that by their personal statement. And again, thanks to Chernobyl Tatiana, to other feminists who came, we actually ran to that square because they did speak on the square. We ran and tried to say, no, we disagree with that shameful practice of negotiation with feminists, where you even try to use, again, in this patriarchal system, you're again using our voices, and again, it's against us. So for us, it was very, very critical. We do not agree. And actually, they saw that it was worth of everything. We did that, and you can see a lot of coverage and how to say, a lot of interviews was held. I just really, as a journalist, as a former journalist, feeling that mass media started to become interested in us only because we, how to say, achieved this peaceful meeting and rally. But before that, or maybe, for example, now, they do not interview us because maybe they do not understand that our work is everyday, daily routine work. It's not just one beautiful celebration that happens once a year, that we're doing a lot of things that can make you blue, can make you cry, can make you not eating to eat. So where are we? Where are you all people who just come for celebration? It's great, you come, you have fun with us, but also we have some other days which are very full of, you know, many questions and many activities, and we would like to share that too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think this has been very interesting, and I think it'll be very good to open it up to discussion. And we're a small group, so it looks like we can just have people click their raise hand button or otherwise indicate they want to step in, but you do have to show your face. Leo is showing his face, and you have to click off your mute. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Leo Granberg from University of Helsinki, living in Uppsala, Sweden, in fact, working in there. So thank you, very interesting. I don't know Kazakhstan really very much, so and I would like to ask you to give a little background about the civic activists, civil society in general. So I understood the rallies have been very difficult to organize, but are there other rallies which are organized? And then this is one question. And the other, how are these organizations like women organization or female organizations, how are they organized? Are they just informal, or are they somehow organized as a kind of listed club or society association and registered somewhere, or yeah, and how are you choosing your leaders? Are you is the leader just nominating herself or himself, or are your members in the club choosing leaders? Or are there leaders at all? So are they like anarchist organizations? Thank you.
Okay, who wants to start?
Gulzada, maybe you can start.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can start, and Zhanar will add more. So Kazakhstan was a part of Soviet Union in the past.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and after we got independence, the last the last from 15 countries, so everybody left us. So Kazakhstan was like free to go anywhere and do whatever they want. We wanted at that time, because nobody interested in us. So I remember myself, I was about 20 years old that time, and I was waiting this freedom at last will come to us. But the leader whom you mentioned, the Nazarbayev, he was a former communist party leader, and he was not rushing into going into these new challenges, new independence, but we faced it. And then we started to build our own economy, become a new independent country in 90s. In the past, probably we were more free people as nomads, but during Soviet times, we became settled people. In fact, my parents, they were still nomads in their life, and they were those who settled. And we still had this feeling of free nomad people, but transitioning to settled. And I think we still have this nature in our blood, like former nomads. And as women organizations in the beginning, there were investments from Islamic countries, and the first women organization, it was a League of Islamic Women. And then after some educated, more feminist women saw this happening, that this world is trying to bring their changes to our society, who were more egalitarian, they built this League of Feminists. That was the second women organization which organized in the past 90s, in the beginning of 20s. So Shakirova, who was mentioned before by Zhanar, she was at that time part of this discussion, all these changes. So there were some feminist women or more egalitarian women organizations, and because of the inheritance of Soviet times and then Islamic influence. So now, right now, we in Feminita, we want to try to bring up some heritage from 1920s, where women in the past, in the beginning of 20th century, fought for their rights. In fact, Kazakh women, what was the most important thing in the past, in the beginning of 20th century, it was kalim. Kalim was the payment for women, so women could be sold, right? So the first thing they abolished, it was this practice. That was the importance. So we want to bring up these historical things, and Nazipa Kuljanova, one of the prominent women journalists in the past, she wrote the meaning of March 8th. So whenever we write requests to Akimat or to tell people in Kazakhstan, we say, well, that's the heritage of Nazipa Kuljanova. She talked about it the first time about March 8 in 1922 or 23. So in the beginning of 20s, the last century, it was important for women who lived in Kazakhstan. So we think that history starts from there, and also then, yeah. So there are women organizations like shelters, which was already mentioned, also domestic violence, and a feminist organization like Feminita or Kasfem.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can add that civil activism in Kazakhstan are very different, and what you can find, the very active leaders are from For example, political reforms activists, because they disagree what happened, for example, in Zhanaozen, or what is happening now on the border with China, where they have practiced to forget your knowledge and change your beliefs. So you can find a lot of national patriot activists too, who actually try to advocate for changes in that area. For Kazakhstan, it's a bit challenging for the government to recognize that even Baikonur, the problem of Baikonur renting that area to Russia, or challenge and problem and genocide with China and Kazakh Uyghur people. Kazakhstani government still is not very very vocalizing that. Only activists, political activists, who some of them are now in jail because government do not like other people to hear them, because they try to raise that question that we have to stop, for example, that genocide that is happening on border with China, where Kazakh settlers actually who lives in yurta still nowadays are grabbed and sent to that camps. And this practice, of course, also concerning us and other activists, but I'm trying to say that we actually, maybe the first activist that you can see, I think, was ecological activist and political activist. Ecological because of the Nevada Semipalatinsk, for example, where people of Semey and Olzhas Suleimenov, our famous poet, now he's not writing, unfortunately, poems anymore, raised that question that we have to stop gather nuclear power and stop these practices. But still we have Baikonur, which is not decided yet. We have a state in our state. It's actually a Russian state. And we are all angry, not just because they use another passports, but because rocket ship, parts of the rocket ship falling down on our land, and animals are dying, such Saigak, which is on extinction now. Saigak and and people becoming ill. They have cancer, on any type cancer, because this rocket ship, when they fall, they have this liquid inside, and it's actually fuel with this chemical, very poisonous texture, you know. And and you can see that government is very silent on that questions. Where is Russia or China are intersected, because there may be big, I don't know, big, how to call them, big states, or, you know, big leaders with whom you cannot just disagree. And maybe it's because we do not have women president in our state who can disagree, who can say that we have this problem and we have to stop it. We have to stop to play this diplomatic, playful, colorful, I don't know, what can we call it? But these problems are every day, we feel it every day. And as a feminist, as a LGBTQ women, we are also concerned by ignorance of our government. And of course, LGBT issues, if we come to that topic, also is the silent topic for them. Only some of the members of parliament speak on LGBT, but only with negative focus. When they have some anti-gender groups statement, they use it because they cannot, they even don't have their, mind to create something anti-LGBT by themselves. So they are waiting a good time to speak. It's like, very ridiculous, but this is what we have actually. And our government, unfortunately, is consisting in phases in which not me, not Gulzada, or other people in this country cannot recognize themselves. These are, I'm sorry, I have to say, all the men who are sleeping That is why we don't have lives from parliament, because when they have live stream lives from parliament, we saw how member of parliament is sleeping because they are overaged. They need pension, we understand. We need maybe dacha, we understand. So send them to dacha and don't get them come to parliament, because in parliament you have to disagree, you have to argue, you have to suggest some, you know, law or protect law from changes which was made. And I actually would like to say that Nazarbayev protected himself because he changed the constitution. Which country you remember of where the president changing constitution in his regard? Okay, maybe some authoritarian countries, but not democratic countries. And I would like to mention we are not democratic country. So please do not be confused in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. These are very good comments. Now, I see Anastasia has her hand up. I can't tell if she's actually waiting there or not.
No, I guess the comments can go before me, and then we'll see. Maybe they will answer my question. Because...
Okay, are people commenting in the chat?
Yes, there's questions in the chat.
Okay, all right. Who is the first one there? Because I saw a lot of thank yous. Okay, Avian, this is the achievement of being kettled by the police to being protected, but this is, yeah. It's the police in Kazakhstan know about kettling too. Yeah, I'm not seeing the first question. Oh, here, okay. So Galim Jusufbek, your opinion and your activities about general elementary human rights education, not just to women's rights and gender rights specifically, but a broader kind of education about human rights. So do you have ideas about this? And I think this is interesting where you talk about the conflicts between different, not necessarily conflicts, but lack of cooperation between different groups. So is there a way that maybe a generalized education would actually facilitate cooperation maybe? I'm pirating, or I'm taking over the question a little bit, but whoever wants to start.
Zhanar, you go. No?
Well, maybe you, because I a little bit misheard the question.
Okay. So it is in the chat box if you want to read. About this education, I myself, I went to human rights school in Almaty for 1 year, attended, yeah, Raum Juspek is right. So people who came from Soviet Union, they do not much about human rights. So, as for these schools, so we do trainings so as Feminita, we don't have a lot of resources, so we did trainings for journalists, we did trainings with lawyers to become their sensitive to questions. So for human rights for people like LGBT people. So when it comes to human rights, everybody wants, everybody says, yes, there's human rights, everybody deserves right and the protection and the dignity, etc. But when it comes to LGBT rights, people start to think, well, it's not common in Kazakhstan, it's not common to Kazakh. So when we did research in Kazakhstan, so we went to cities, about 16 cities. We traveled to research needs assessment of lesbian, bisexual, and queer women. Then we found out that the half of the people whom we interviewed, they were Kazakhs. So it was it was wrong that it's not common to Kazakh women to be a lesbian or bisexual or queer women. And Zhanar and I, we did public coming out to raise the visibility of lesbian, bisexual, and queer women. So yeah, there are a lot of work to do, and I think every civil society activist, they should contribute to that. And we do, this year we're starting to have trainings for civil society activists, because we see that civil rights activists, they use homophobic, lesbophobic, or transphobic rhetoric in their activism. So to let them know that human rights includes diversity of people, that we want to bring this topic and this discussion among civil society.
Yeah. I can answer on Emma's question if it is okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're answering Emma's question?
Yeah, because I think Gulzada very fully answered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So Emma was wondering how we feel when Tokayev, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, new president of Kazakhstan, came, because we actually were not even dreaming we will have a new president. You know, we thought we will die and Nazarbayev still be our president. It's like, oh, very unique experience you can have. We didn't have our alphabet changed so much as as our president's changing now. So when Tokayev came, he's very educated. His father is a writer. He speaks 4 languages. I think he's very diplomatic shaped person. And of course, everybody was thinking, oh, at last Kazakhstan becomes more visible on diplomatic area. But we have to understand that the real power still in hands of one person in our country, not just the power, but the money, the resources, and I don't know, politicians who could have different opinions, but they are also in hands of Nazarbayev, Nursultan. And we see how Nazarbayev actually do not allow Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, Kassym-Jomart Kemelovich make his own statement. And this is all orchestrated by Nazarbayev's team. And what we saw was changed after Tokayev came and said, I'm a new president. And I remember we were celebrating that actually, and we were shouting a little bit in the bus, but people were so silent that we thought, wait, Nazarbayev changed his position or did he die? So Tokayev changed the law on peaceful assembly, which was not having recommendations from activists. So he did worse the situation on peaceful assembly, and Gulzada was very active that time, and she remembers every detail on how activists could not do any advocacy because they suggested everything, how to make new law on peaceful assembly more inclusive, more, you know, democratic at least. What we saw further, that Tokayev said we need gender quotes for women in political system, and we were like, oh, okay, actually we have them. But when he said statement, everybody in Nur-Otan, or maybe in the position of being friendly or be friends with Tokayev, they started to do many changes. And for example, they did change this quota, having now youth. So they do not interpret what is youth, but it is young men. So now this quota is divided with young men. Before, it was focused only on women. So we cannot applaud to Kassym-Jomart Kemelovich, even his background so excellent. We cannot say he's free from the will of Nazarbayev, who are umbrella term of politics in Kazakhstan, and he suppresses, I think, maybe some good thoughts or, you know, really progressive and really democratic things in Tokayev's mind. But we cannot say that we saw positive changes after Tokayev came. We see how he tried to do it in statements when he tried to maybe a little bit give more free air for, free fresh air for civil society. But after, it is shaped in some restrictions, and it's always like a little bit ambiguity. And what we see he cannot be free in his actions.
Thank you very much. I see Galim Jusipbek has another comment, but I don't really see a question. It's sort of more about broader educational question. Vladi, were you raising your hand?
Yes, if I may.
There's one more question before you. It's Erden Zikibay. And I don't know anything about this, but he's asking about the use of the shapan, traditional move in the March 8th rally, which I haven't heard about.
So, so Gulzada, I start, you continue, right? So, yeah, we used idea of how our opponent from anti-gender movement, the Kazakhstani Union of Parents, because if you have such a name, of course, everybody will think you are a sacred cow. So, I mean, as organization. So she using in her appearance, public appearance, national costume. I mean, it's not even the costume, it's just the national fantasy. And Gulzada will explain you why shapan is a national fantasy. Because, nomads, they live very practically. We didn't have a Swarovski, some kind of type on our, clothes. Because you have to go outside every time, because cow, you have a sheep, you have a little maybe birds, I don't know, we have so many animals around us. We cannot just wear beautiful clothes so often. And Bagila, the leader of Kazakhstani Union of Parents, she always wear such kind of kamzol. And we decided that on 8th of March, we exactly do the same to make them angry. Yes, we had that idea, but also to show that we are Kazakh women who also was born on this Kazakhstani land, which we are very advocating for. We even don't know how, but they're very, very thinking they're protecting Kazakhstani land. And we try to show that here we are, Gulzada from south, Zhanar from north, but we are Kazakh women. And we can wear such thing, and we can call ourselves, we do respect, we do preserve our national costume or national culture. So we actually, Bagila, we would like to thank our opponent for giving us such brilliant idea.
Yeah, we should thank Jamila, who asked her mother. So those all the chapans, or no, not chapan, but they were kamzols. They all belonged to one woman from south. She kindly gave 4 chapans for 4 organizers. So we were really happy, and they're beautiful. Yeah, as Zhanar says, actually they were invented during Soviet times as Soviet propaganda. They were like, they created not only our alphabet in Cyrillic, also these national costumes to show how many nationalities living so happily, dancing, etc. So they were these kind of chapans.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Vladi, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I first also want to thank you for very interesting and very lively presentation, but I also want to express my admiration to you, for both of you, for your courage, not only to kind of openly act against different kinds of discrimination and in support of the acceptance of diversity, but also for coming and telling us these stories and your experiences. I think it's a very good thing, and thank you very much. I have the following question. As you said, the people gathering in this initiative are very different and representatives of different majority and minority groups. And this is one obvious kind of obvious platform for acting together, right? That discrimination should not only be interpreted in terms of women discrimination, but it has diverse forms and expressions, and people experience it in different ways. Besides this obvious platform, have you discussed or thought about other uniting ideas that can lead to a kind of a more permanent joint platform for social activism?
Who would like to?
First.
Oh, okay. So yeah, actually, we were also thinking how we can express another women's group, maybe who are not comfortable to come only on 8th of March, how we can else express our, agenda or ideas or other protest slogans. And of course, many people started to think, oh, why we just gather once a year? We're not just, feeling our problems once a year. So every day could be something when we can say something. We have social platform, actually only that we know, me and Gulzada also joining the platform, LGBT platform in Central Asia. This platform we use for our community. But if we speak about wider, about women's platform, I know that National Committee of Demography and Family Issues, they have some meetings, and these meetings, they're very closed. Not everyone can join, because this Национальная комиссия по делам семейно-демографической политики organized, по делам женщин и семейно-демографической политики, organized within president, So the Nazarbayev was the one who decided, okay, this commission or committee is my structure. And this gives a lot of unbalanced power dynamics. It gives very different thoughts to other women's organizations who cannot agree with a political regime. And of course, they cannot just come and visit and work in that commission, because this commission even is not updating their website, and you can find very old numbers, or you can find a lot of documents which have only agenda, some statistics, some nominative information, which cannot help you understand what is happening in Kazakhstan, what are main problems for women, what are actually, what is so concerning for women in Kazakhstan. You cannot find. It's very pro-governmental institution. And unfortunately, other social platform, maybe we don't know, Gulzada, but I didn't hear about any other social platform for women who, can also gather and say something.
So yeah, about this commission. This kind of organization, they are built to write some reports for United Nations committees. So as an independent country, we became a member of United Nations, and we signed and ratified a lot of conventions, and among them is CEDAW about the discrimination of women, and there should be one organization which writes reports about the situation of women. So this commission was created for this reason, I think. And all this work was about creating this, to build this report. And we started to advocate for women's rights, for LGBT rights and LBQ women rights also in CEDAW, and we interacted with this commission, and we realized that this commission was like very, as Zhanar said, very nominal. They were not expecting that civil society or LGBT activists would also come to Geneva to say, okay, these things they're not happening, and it's really good in their report, but and actually we have these numbers. So yeah, there might be some discussion with them, but as we observed that they are working only to write these reports and not actually accepting our road plans. So we tried to make a road plan to have, let's have anti-discrimination legislation imposed, because we have a lot of kind of organization. Somebody who's working with people with disabilities. Some activists who are working on women's rights or domestic violence, etc., etc. So we would like to have this anti-discrimination legislation. Let's have this roadmap. But they took everything in their note, and there's a lot of ministries, and so yeah, this organization is not helpful. And actually, we had probably it is economical reason. So we need investments, and when we need investments, we want to sign up all these international agreements and say, oh, yeah, we will do all these requirements of these human rights, women rights. Okay, let's have it, fine. But when it comes to practice, they hold up, and actually it happened from 2006 until 2016. We have really good gender equality strategy, and there were some trainings for all women in Kazakhstan, in everywhere, and it had its impact. Women started to get interested, and in 2016, instead of pushing it further, they changed the strategy to gender and family. So they started to stop it, because in these 10 years, women started to move forward really hard because they had these some opportunities. And now we have in this, one indicator, it was, we had to have indicator in 2016 in politics and in decision-making level. We're supposed to have 30% of women, but we didn't get there. But we were close, because women started to catch up, and then they imposed this new strategy. Oh, let's have it in 2030. So let's give Nazarbayev another how many years until 30? So he would die happily until 30. So we have another strategy. So all this 30% now it's on 2030. And that's why they added this youth component to it.
Thank you very much. This is still very interesting. Sorry, Anastasia, I skipped over you before. It's your
Oh, no, No, it's absolutely fine. Hi, I'm a PhD student at Institute of Russian Eurasian Studies. And my question might be very obvious, but it's about your neighboring countries. I'm wondering, do feminist communities in Russia or other neighboring countries show any support to your cause in Kazakhstan? Or do you feel like you are dealing with completely different issues and they do not show you so much support? So that's my question.
Okay, I'll start. Gulzada, you can. Actually, very difficult to say with like fully answer to this, because we more interconnecting with Kyrgyzstani activists who invite themselves some other guests or lecturers or speakers, but it's very rare that somebody from Russian Federation or from, you know, neighboring states coming to us and try to collaborate. Just recently, we had the Belarusian journalist project, but it's again through the Kyrgyzstani LGBT organization. It's not, I don't know why, maybe Kazakhstan is in the minds of activists is a bit well-known area, or it is very different reasons which we can just assume. But what I saw and sometimes hear from my colleagues from Central Asia, that when Russian activists come on our platforms, I mean offline, it was before coronavirus, they try to only teach us. They do not accept sharing knowledge when we try to say, oh, we have best experience of trans community gender marker change in Bishkek, in Kyrgyzstan, which can be used, you know, for post-Soviet countries. But this example was not even taken for the note. They were speaking about Europe or, you know, Latin America, Netherlands. Of course, it's great. But if we have very close country which work perfectly on that kind of procedure, which now, of course, is taking back because of the new president, you know, political situation is changing. But what we heard usually always a question of not reflecting on some kind of colonization issues. You know, they always think they have to come to our country just to teach. But what about if you come to our country to listen? And this would be different point.
Thank you so much for answering the question. For my question, it's great. It was a great answer. Thank you.
Gulzada, did you want to add something? Or?
No, yeah. So I would like to add more about Belarusian activists who are so because of the last women movement the last year in Belarus. Some activists reached out to us, and it was really good to have these sisters out of Belarus becoming stronger, and we really hope that political situation in Belarus will change, and our sisters in Belarus will to hold this strength in them.
I think with that we have to say Belarus from the time.
Yeah,
so.
Belarus. Okay.
Okay, and Galim Jusufbek has another question. What is your observation concerning the attitudes to LGBTQ rights of younger generation urbanized Kazakhs? So what are the attitudes? Are the attitudes changing? Are people more open to and inclusive? Yeah. And I would say, is it different in Almaty and Astana and other cities also?
Not only in these two cities, but in TikTok. We would like to mention the social media. So we were active in Instagram, and during this March, there were a lot of attacks to Feminita through Instagram, and we were so we're upset about a lot of singers, popular singers. So this anti-gender group, they reached popular Instagram leaders to attack Feminita, and we were a little bit upset. And someone hinted us that people love you in TikTok. So Zhanar and I, we went to TikTok, and a lot of young people, they were so welcoming, so open to LGBT rights, and it was amazing. So it is a very strange experience to have in some social media. It's not welcome. In some social media, it is welcome. Yeah, Zhanar, you would like to say?
Yes, we are observing that the young generation more inclusive, and they are more, how to say, they have a lot of information, and they choose what information they would like to read or make video. For them, making video is kind of self-education, as we see. And I really would like stress, maybe you do not think TikTok is serious, but let's not underestimate young generation place where they gather, they change their idea or share some video, and some of them, of course, made for fun and so on. But if you can read some messages in that fun or irony, or they say cringe means like guiltiness, you can find some messages that really worth to you know, to understand, and maybe sometimes response on that and so on. So we mentioned that, yes, young generation supporting us very much, and they are actually fighting with haters in TikTok. They try to answer them instead of us, because we don't have so many hours to read every hate comment. So this young generation even answer, they look comments, and they try to answer to that haters instead of us. So
just to follow up on that, this is mostly in Russian, right? And these are they also Russian, you know, citizens, do you think, some of them, or are they mostly in Kazakhstan supporting you, but using Russian because that's sort of the broader language?
Well, as we observed, this anti-gender movement is backed by Russian organizations, which are anti-gender organizations, really strong, and I think they have resources to create some videos against us, and we recognize them by how they say words. We do not speak like them, and there's some words that we recognize that video was made in Russia, and all these young people whom we are talking, probably they speak Russian mostly, but Kazakhs are also among them, Kazakh speakers, and they're, yeah, our young Kazakhstani citizens mostly, and this anti-gender group, actually they're not that strong like in Russia, and I think they need some help to fight with us as they wanted to. So this one member, she wears this hamzol, so they want to own the tradition, they want to like make it own. So that's why we wanted to take it to ourselves, as to say, we can wear the same camisoles. And I think anti-gender movement, I think it is foreign to Kazakhstan.
Yes, and TikTok, we can find the Kazakh and Russian narratives and comments and video. So Kazakh language now is probably more, how to say, we can find a lot of publics or a lot of accounts in Kazakh language and also in Russian, but they are Kazakhstani citizens. And what we see, they live in very different cities because they write to us, please come to my city with your trainings. We will wait for you. We cannot, of course, because of resources, come to each city, but this year we will cover 10 or 12 cities. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Exciting. Do other people have questions? Are we? Does anybody want to say anything else? I think nobody has added anything to chat. I actually had quite a few questions, sort of about the details. Sorry, Gulzada, go ahead.
And Marie is raising her hand.
Oh, she is, right. Sorry. Sorry, Anne-Marie, go ahead.
Okay, actually, I have a couple of questions, but one of them was related to these anti-gender civil society organizations. You mentioned this Kazakh Union of Parents, and I wonder what they are. And I know there are similar groups in Russia, and you were already talking about some sort of influence from Russia. Could you say something about that? And then I have another question, and that is related to the economics. I mean, that Kazakhstan is quite an oil-rich country. And I was wondering about those owners. I'm not sure how much is owned by the national state and how much is owned by oligarchs. But are there women among these rich people in Kazakhstan, and what are they doing? I mean, do you feel that you have support from women, or are women in high positions more inclined to work with the government, so to say? Thank you.
Okay, so about anti-gender group, we read carefully, fact check. Do you hear me? Am I freezed? Oh, sorry.
Your picture is frozen. We could hear you.
Okay. So this anti-gender group was analyzed, their speeches, and they actually supported by Russian activists who Scientologists. Some of them practice some other, kind of relationship with kids, where you allowed to a little bit beat them, hit them. It's what Kazakh parents actually would like to keep. We have to say that. We have to confess that they are really concerned that they cannot beat or hit their children anymore. But this group entirely, fitting the needs of parents in Kazakhstan. So what we found, these persons are the leaders. They speak in Kazakh both, some leaders, and some in Russian only. And what we found interesting that some of them, they were like just recently appeared. They were not known as activists for parents' rights. They were not on Geneva saying, yes, we have some, challenges or with education or some conditions which we have to improve for our children. They just appeared recently, and I think they gathered people who do not believe in vaccine. And they gathered, and this is very, very mixed group. People who do not trust to the government of Kazakhstan. And they use this background of not trusting to government as one common bridge, to be united, to say critical words against. And they actually succeed with mothers of many children. So now mothers of many children, I mean, mostly what we see, all of them, they are on the side of this Kazakhstani Union of Parents, because they give them YouTube channels, they give them Instagram account lives to speak, which government did not do. Because these mothers, they're shouting and they look very emotional, and every representative from local government so scared to come and just to speak. And this woman wants just to speak. Yes, sometimes it's very loud voice, but if you do not allowing somebody to speak, they starting to shout, and this is consequences. And we remember how, you know, when the how to say, when, for example, one army tried to conquer another army, they jump on the big buildings. I know it in Russian, but like Asada. So these mothers even using that strategy to come into local Akimat. They come in Akimat very forcefully. They aggressively behave against the guardians, and they say we will sleep here, and they sleep there, and the local government turn off light, turn off heat, but they sleep on the floor. So this look like a military strategy. When you conquer buildings, you just staying with your body there, and all of this could not be in that result if government just allowed to speak this woman, because they need to say that what are their concerns. Nobody knows. Now Kazakhstani Union gives them platform, and of course they started to speak, and now we understood, this is what they want, or other issues they're really concerned. And these issues are very understandable for every person. It's not something new, something magical. It's just they want social benefits for their many children, or they want some, you know, local institutions' attention. Just coming visit sometimes these families, which are very. Gulzada told me one story that one mother of many children had to take child into the car and just drive this child around and around in the city, because this child cannot sleep with other children, which are sisters and brothers, because of some maybe needs. And this mother have to do household and also drive this child around and around while this poor child become to sleep. What is this? I mean, this is so, I mean, every people can understand, but they need this bridge to take this and say to our officials.
And about this, the second part of your question about the economic situation. Yes, we are not only oil rich, but all other natural resources rich country. And it is not the, I think it's not beneficial for people, but it's kind of our big problem. Yeah, as for oil companies, China, they try to have some parts of our companies, they belong to Chinese government, and this becomes a real concern of civil society in Kazakhstan. So we, time to time, we went to rallies against giving them all the resources, all the parts, shares of natural resource companies in Kazakhstan. That's one of the struggles of civil society. Yeah, so there were a lot of civil society activism. We talked about different, these many children mother, there one group, and there's another group who are concerned on the lands, so to give the land to foreigners for ownership. So it was successful campaign against renting lands to foreigners, and now foreigners can't own, although in practice probably they already bought some shares with these oligarchs, with the help of oligarchs, but it's not very transparent. So the reason of these mothers of many children, they have these all issues with their housing and the education of their children. That's the reason that we do not benefit from all this oil richnesses and our natural resources. So also we become overly debt from China and the other from Netherlands, for example. So we have a lot of debt in our shoulders. So the government is saying, so the government debt, Kazakhstan debt, raising every year by year, but we are selling a lot of natural resources. Ecology is getting worse and worse. And many children, mothers are are unhappy. They're sleeping in governmental buildings in their floors. So that's the situation that we have now. So this, I don't know where they go. So as Zhanar already mentioned, we have this Baikonur in the middle of our country, which is Russia land, and oligarchs are doing their not ecological friendly projects in our land, and this is the most concerns, and that's why I was in Kettling because I went to these protests, which is related to the land, and when we are fighting for these resources, the government becomes very aggressive, and they use this Kettling method against civil rights activists.
Yeah, and it was Anne-Marie also asked about women among this oligarch. Yeah. We know daughters. We know daughters of Nazarbayev, and they actually could use their power for, very good projects, but they don't. Darika Nazarbayeva actually not succeed with her public speeches. She tried to show herself as a very great politician, but her speech includes sometimes a lot of controversial and very incorrect terms in regards to children, in regards to some other, very, very social, very humanistic issues, which I think comes from your humanity, not just your background, policies, or your education in UK, for example. And this is where they show their lack. They have a lot of degrees, they have money, but they're not expressing the social needs of people. They're not expressing mother of many children concerns. And this is the big gap. They cannot feel what is actually happening with people.
Thank you very much. And if people don't have more questions, I think we're getting quite late in Almaty anyway, and maybe people have had enough. I did want to point out that you'll have another chance to hear Zhanar at least, and maybe Gulzada will participate like we are now. But Zhanar will be speaking at an event Yulia Gnatskova is organizing on May 27th at Södertörn University, and it's more about the international aspects of feminist organizing throughout Russia and Central Asia. And there's quite a few interesting speakers there. It's a very international crowd. So that if you look at the Södertörn website, I can't remember the exact title of it, but Russia and Central Asia are prominent in it, and it's May 27th. I think it's is it in the morning? It couldn't be in the morning, because that would be, oh no, it might be, yeah, it might be 10 to 12 in the morning, so that's a little different than this time.
Yes, it's 10 to 12 on the 27th. It's a Thursday, I know.
it's a roundtable also. All right, well, thank you, everyone. If no one has more questions, thank you for participating. It was very interesting, and we're very glad you could join us. I think it looked like you were enjoying it too, and I at least learned a lot because of so many ins and outs and complexities that you were mentioning that were very interesting, and especially, well, I hope you're able to organize, more participatory events with people from other activist organizations. I think that's very unfortunate that they're not willing to take the risk and join and support your movement. But certainly it's very nice to hear about how much you have accomplished and how well it's going. And TikTok sounds that was quite an optimistic element that you're getting invited to come teach people in various cities through that. So great, very good to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.